You are LockedOn Braves POSTCAST, part of LockedOn Sports Atlanta, your team every day.
Hello and welcome into the Braves POSTCAST. Grant McAuley, Jake Mastroianni with you after a frustrating night at the ballpark for the Atlanta Braves as the hits and the runs were a little bit harder to come by than they'd like, but that has been a running theme in 2024. And even on a night where there was the excitement of a major league debut, the Braves weren't able to cobble enough together to get into this game and really, get back into this series against the Washington Nationals, who had already taken the opener and now are in position quite possibly to get out of Atlanta by taking 3 out of 4. But the Braves, of course, will try to stave that off in the finale of this series. All of those things we're going to get into on this edition of the Braves POSTCAST, of course, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And you can find it right here on Locked On Sports Atlanta on YouTube. Make sure you hit the thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that. And subscribe to Locked On Braves wherever you get your podcast. Today's episode brought to you by eBay Motors. From brakes to exhaust kits and beyond, eBay Motors has over 122 million parts to keep your ride or die alive. With all the parts you need, the prices you want, it's easy to bring home that big win. Visit ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay guaranteed fit only. Available to U.S. customers. Jake, I think we saw a pretty good customer on the mound for the Braves. A little bit of a surprising call-up as Spencer Schwellenbach is all the way up from Double-A. An interesting arm, somebody I know you and I have been keeping an eye on over the course of this season. I thought there was a lot to like, despite the fact that you had to look a 7-2 loss in the face if you're the Braves by the end of the night.
Yeah, some definitely good stuff there from Spencer Schwellenbach. And like you said, a bit of a surprise. He had only made 2 starts at Double-A before getting called up, and there were probably some nerves in there. I mean, he wasn't as sharp as he's been, obviously, at the minors. That's a big jump from 2 starts at Double-A to the major leagues. But I thought he at least showed that he could hold his own, that he can get batters out there. And look, with the way this Nationals offense has played against the Braves, he's facing one of the best lineups right now with the way they're hitting. 35 hits already in the first 3 games of this series. So, I thought I thought he proved to himself and to a lot of people that he can pitch at this level. So, good call by the Braves to give him that opportunity again, despite not a long track record at the minor leagues. But they've shown if you can get it done at the minor league level, you get up to Double-A, you're just a phone call away. And Braves have had that need. They can't really find somebody right now to stick in that 5th spot.
Yeah, I think we may see a couple more calls before the year is over to help, just get through some of these times, in particular trying to navigate this rotation. However, I would say that this was, at least as far as a foundation is concerned, a pretty good start to build on for Spencer Schwellenbach. The first few innings, went extremely well. Eventually got himself into a little bit of trouble. There's a scary hit by pitch, which I think ultimately, thankfully did not end up becoming a bigger distraction than possibly it could have been. But I can't imagine that wasn't at least in the back of his mind as he was trying to get back into a groove after that. Ultimately, I felt like the hit by pitch notwithstanding, because you're never trying to hit anybody, especially not in the helmet, really only made one mistake in this game. Unfortunately, Lane Thomas really liked that mistake, and that put the Nationals in the driver's seat.
Yeah, unfortunately for the Braves, Lane Thomas came back from the injury list at the exact wrong time. He was brutal tonight against the Braves. But, he hits the batter. He gives up the 3-run homer. And what I think was really telling about this kid, and I heard Peter Moreland talking about it on the post game, is that he was able to come back out. I didn't know if the Rays would just take him out at that point. It had been thought he had done a good job up to that moment in the game. Obviously, giving up the home run there, though. I thought it get him out of the top of the lineup for a 3rd time. Maybe Snicker was going to pull him, but he kept pitching and he got through the rest of that inning. And I thought that was very big of him. And I thought that showed, I like that Snicker did leave him out there and allow him to try to work through that. Like you said, after hitting the batter, maybe that's in his head a little bit, makes a mistake, but then is able to put that away and get through the rest of that 5th inning. So I think that tells you a little bit of something about Spencer Schwellenbach, and good stuff. You saw it tonight. Had some strikeouts in there, just a 1 walk. And that's something he's done a great job of in his brief minor league appearances that he's made. He hasn't walked a ton of batters, and he showed good command tonight on a strike zone that was kind of tight at times. So I thought that was very impressive from Schwellenbach, and just, again, some good swings or some good pitches in there. He got 4 whiffs on 8 swings against that curveball that looked like maybe his best pitch tonight. That fastball was sitting mid-90s, got up to 97, 98 at times. So really good stuff from Schwellenbach. Hopefully we get to see him in the rotation again. We'll see how things kind of play out going forward. They do have the off day coming up on Monday. But either way, I really liked what I saw from Schwellenbach, and I think he will get another opportunity or two.
Yeah, we'll save a little bit of the Spencer Schwellenbach for the next segment when we do get inside the box score and talk about a lot. And I get all the updates I need, possibly from Windows that I can't figure out how to turn off. So if you're a longtime viewer of the program and you're as irritated about it as I am, well, you're probably not as irritated as I am, but I've done everything I know how to do. With that aside, I think that Spencer Schwellenbach was able to avoid those kind of dialogue boxes for the most part in his start. The Braves offense, though, has been one big warning dialogue box all season, Jake, and it continued on tonight after the first couple of weeks of this year where the Braves really looked like they were going to be that team that you thought they were. It has just not come together. They get little pieces here and there, little glimpses and flashes from certain players, but not able to string it together. You got to tip the cap, I think, to Mackenzie Gore on the other side of this coin. 5 1/3 innings. He's a very good pitcher, had great strikeout stuff tonight. 10 punch outs, no walks, just 6 hits allowed. Did give up a couple of runs, but by and large, I mean, this was a big piece of the Nationals rotation that they got in the Juan Soto trade. So they're certainly hoping that he's able to give them plenty more performances like the one he has tonight. And you can see why he's such a highly touted young arm.
Yeah, I talked about it coming into this series. Mackenzie Gore having somewhat of a breakout season, a former top pitching prospect in all of baseball, and a number 3 overall pick. So certainly some prospect pedigree there. It's taken him a while to kind of get to this point, but he is a really good pitcher. Obviously, big velocity is something this Braves offense has struggled with mightily this year, or elevated four seam fastballs, and it's just continued tonight. So it was a tough matchup for them, but at some point, I'm tired of saying, hey, they faced a good pitcher who pitched a good game. It's just we've been saying it forever now. But the strikeouts are becoming to just be a really big problem for this Braves team. The 22nd in baseball in strikeout percentage since April 20th, which is kind of the mark that I keep going back to, is when I think this offense really started to slide. And, again, 13 more strikeouts tonight. It seems like every night now they're reaching double-digit strikeouts. And it's just – I don't know the answers at this point. Again, we've talked about it in circles for over a month now. Something's got to change with these guys to get them going. And again, I don't care if it's Mackenzie Gore on the mound. I don't care if it's Jacob deGrom. I don't care who it is. They've got to have some better at-bats, some more consistency in their at-bats. I talk about it every night. I look at the box score and I'm seeing, okay, usually I'm used to this lineup. Everybody had a hard hit ball. Everybody played a role in it. I look at it tonight. And one thing that's consistent, everybody had at least one strikeout, and almost half of them had 2 strikeouts. That's just not this Braves team. That's not this Braves lineup. And you look at the opposite side of things with the Nationals, and what do? They put the ball in play. In the backbreaker, the Jacob Young, check swing, 2 RBI single, that was a backbreaker for this team. But look, they put the ball in play even later against Pierce Johnson. You had 2 in scoring position. They steal some bases. It's just, again, I don't want to be one of those guys that just says, strikeout is terrible. I get all that, but there is something to making contact every now and then, especially you lead off the game with a double from Ozzie Albies and then 3 straight strikeouts from your 2, 3, 4 hitters. It's just, again, I'm obviously frustrated with it at this point. I know a lot of Braves fans listening are frustrated with it. And I just keep trying to hold out hope that things are going to change. But so far, we're just not seeing it.
Yeah, I mean, you look at this lineup and you feel like, the talent is there. It's not like these guys had a good year last year and they're a bunch of, one-year wonders. These are players with very good track records. Where there's some career seasons in there, yeah, certainly there were, especially for Matt Olson as you look at that. And I don't think anybody's asking him to hit 54 home runs every year. Well, maybe somebody is, but the realistic possibility that's not there. But he's starting to show a little bit, I think, right now. That's something that you can take out of this. Couple of hits from Ozzie Albies at the top of the order. 6 hits overall from those top 4 men. Runs scored by Albies and Riley. Unfortunately, the Nationals, not only did they take that lead with a 3-run homer in the 5th, they added to it in the 6th inning and then added 2 more to just get it completely out of reach in the 9th inning as well. And you mentioned it, 2 punch-outs for Riley, 2 for Marcell Ozuna, though I don't know about you, but I haven't had too many nights where I'm going to hang it on Marcell Ozuna as being the guy that, isn't allowed to, have a 1-for-4 night with a couple of punch-outs. He still drove in a run. 2 strikeouts for Travis d'Arnaud, 2 for Adam Duvall as well. Michael Harris, Orlando Arcia, Jared Kelenic, Matt Olson, and Ozzie Albies, as you pointed out, they all punched out 13 in total for the Braves, 1 for 8 with runners in scoring position. Didn't seem like they even had that many opportunities, to be honest with you. But to your point, you get a double to start the game, then 3 straight guys strike out. That's an 0-for-3 right there in the first inning. That is not the start that you want.
It's not. And again, you had an opportunity here. Mackenzie Gore, they talked about on the broadcast, and he's somebody that he can give up some runs early in the game, but he kind of is one of those pitchers that just seems to get better as things go on. So you had a chance there, to give your young starter who had a clean first inning and get them a run on the board and help them kind of settle in a little bit. All these pitchers right now are feeling the pressure that they just can't give up too much. I mean, the Braves are 0-13 in the month of May now, and they give up 3 runs or more. It's just, you have to be on it when you're on the mound. There's just really no wiggle room right now with this offense. And again, they've had chances in these first innings, I feel like, especially when Ronald was here at the top of the order getting on base, and they're just not able to cash in those spots to put up some early runs like we saw all last year.
Yeah, I mean, I can't tell you how discouraging of a stat it is to be 0-13 in games when you allow 3 or more runs. Now, I get that the or more can be much larger than that, but, it just kind of feels like when the opponent gets 3+ runs, it's going to be a bit of an uphill climb. Now, again, the plus and the or more are a big part of that equation. I totally get that, but I went back and crunched the numbers coming into this game, Jake. The Braves were 26th in Major League Baseball in runs scored this month. They added just 2 more tonight, so I can't imagine that changed much. Came into the game batting just .230 this month, averaging 3.5 runs per game. And as we know, there have been a couple of or more games for the Braves that we've seen recently, and you start to kind of wonder, is this going to be a sign? It has not necessarily been a sign. It's been more of an outlier. We're going to talk a lot more about that. We'll, of course, get inside the Spencer Schwellenbach start a little bit more, and we got to get you ready for Game 4 of the series, which comes your way on Thursday. All of that is coming your way on the other side of this break right here on the Braves Postcast. Passion, drive, and patience, the formula for winning championships, is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you are burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need and all the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home the huge wins. That's ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. Well, let's take a look at the line score and box score of this game, Jake. It's the Braves taking the loss drop to 31-22. Nationals improved to 25-29. Their winning line was 7 runs on 13 hits, 1 error. Washington left 8 men on base. The Braves 2 runs on 8 hits, 1 error, and 6 men left aboard. Winning pitcher Mackenzie Gore improves to 4-4 on the year. He's got a 2.91 ERA. So like I said, he has been having a pretty nice little season for Washington. 10 punch-outs in 5 1/3 innings tonight to pick up that win. Spencer Schwellenbach, unfortunately, takes the loss, drops to 0-1. 5 innings, a 3-run ball for him, and 5 strikeouts in his major league debut. Let's get back into that because I do feel like a lot of folks were excited to find out more about this guy. I had a lot of people kind of asking me, what can we expect? Did a bunch of call-ins here on local radio, here on Sports Radio 92.9 The Game in Atlanta, just kind of trying to get people, I guess, up to speed on what to expect from Schwellenbach. And we kind of laid it out earlier. This is a guy that has a pretty deep pitch mix, and I don't know if it's surprising from a pitcher who was mostly a two-way player in college and was a closer, but he's developed himself a pretty nice arsenal, Jake, of both the breaking ball, the swing and miss stuff, and a good fastball that sits in the mid-90s. And he really, I think, had it all on display against the Nationals in this game.
Yeah, and he introduced a cutter, especially early in the game, that I didn't know he had back in my watches of him in the offseason. I don't get to see too much during the season, but when I went back and watched him in the offseason, I don't remember seeing that cutter, and he broke that out in this one. It wasn't necessarily effective for him a lot of the times, but still, it mixes it in there a little bit. But his primary pitches are that fastball. It's a curveball slider, but you watch those two pitches, and the slider's kind of more of a swerve with some horizontal break, while the slider has some much harder downward break to it. But both of those pitches can be really good for him. And then with that fastball, like you said, one that he can get up there to 97, 98. He averaged almost 96 with it tonight on that pitch. And he gave up some hard hits in this one, gave up 7 hard hits, I believe, but still just 87.5 mile per hour average exit velocity again. So, was able to do some good things, keep hitters off balance with those mainly 3 pitches. Like I said, he mixed in the cutter, throws some changeups as well, but those are his 3 primary pitches. Got 11 whiffs in this one, 15 called strikes, so that's a 30% CSW, which is really good. That's what you're kind of looking for. So again, just really good stuff from him, especially when you consider a guy that's made 2 starts at Double-A to be able to come up. And he is 23, he's a college kid, he's older, but he was a reliever in Nebraska. Hadn't thrown a lot there, has Tommy John surgery after getting drafted, so he doesn't pitch for a year and a half. And now, again, just over 100 minor league innings, just 2 starts at Double-A, to be able to come up and have that kind of composure. He had some traffic in this one. He gave up 3 doubles as well as a home run on the 5 hits that he gave up, and he had to work around a lot of that. And like I said, he did a good job just until he made that mistake to Lane Thomas there in the 5th inning. But, I mean, overall, I was really impressed with what I saw from Spencer Schwellenbach.
Yeah, 5 innings, 5 hits, 3 runs, all of them earned, all in coming on the big swing of the bat by Lane Thomas there, the 1 home run he allowed, only 1 walk and 5 strikeouts. And I'm with you. I mean, attacking the strike zone, you're going to have to be careful how you do it with major league lineups, but I certainly don't want to discourage a kid from coming up and going right after him. And he'll turn 24 years old on Friday, as a matter of fact. So he is a little bit older amongst the pitching prospect ages that we are typically talking about. Even, the Hurston Waldrops of the world. A.J. Smith-Shawver just turned 21. So those guys, I mean, Waldrop obviously coming out of college. You usually see early 20s guys that are climbing and getting to that AAA level. Well, Schwellenbach just skipped that level altogether and jumped right to the majors. And the Braves have done that over the years. I kind of like that you see that. It's maybe not quite as often with pitchers. I think I saw Chris Harris of the Mississippi Braves post a list of some of the recent names that had done it. I remember Alex Wood coming up from Double-A Mississippi. Mauricio Cabrera, I'd forgotten he existed, but he did, and he threw very hard, and he's been out of baseball for a while. But meanwhile, a lot of names on there that you would expect, the Jeff Francoeurs, Brian McCanns of the world. But a cool opportunity for Schwellenbach. And I just feel like, Jake, again, with what we've been talking about, not to just, go on the same kind of rant over and over, it just seems like this is the kind of outing that could lead to more opportunities for him, and I certainly hope it does.
I hope it does too. Again, I think to have somebody that can come up and throw strikes. 88 pitches tonight, 60 strikes. I mean, that's what you want to see. And look, if you would tell me, you got your number 5 starter, a rookie coming up, and he gives you 5 innings, 3 earned, with the offense that we are accustomed to over the last several years, I would have said, give me that every time out. I think that gives this team a chance to win. It's just that's not the case right now. So, but to get to your point of the Braves bringing up people from Double-A, a lot of people who cover the minor leagues, they say that move from high A to Double-A is really the big jump. Going from Double-A to Triple-A, you're really just facing 4A type players who have a lot of experience. So a lot of people talk about that jump from high A to Double-A being the bigger jump at the minor league level. Obviously, there's no jump bigger than going from the minor leagues to the major leagues. But again, very impressed with what he was able to do. And I'm also of the thought that we don't know how long these pitchers have. Obviously, Spencer Schwellenbach just coming off Tommy John, but other new Brave news on the day, top prospect Owen Murphy is having Tommy John surgery. So if you have somebody in the minors that you feel can get batters out at the major league level, why not? Why keep wasting those bullets in the minor leagues, especially when you have a need like the Braves do?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point to make. I mean, any pitching injury could be just one pitch away. That's just kind of how that goes. I had heard that Owen Murphy, who hadn't pitched in a couple of weeks, might be headed down that Tommy John road from a couple of what I would call good enough sources that were probably in the know about that. The Braves making that news official, though, or the report finally getting out there officially on Monday that Tommy John for Owen Murphy was going to be a reality. That's unfortunate for a high school draftee who just, 2022, really lighting the league on fire as well. Thus far, the minor leagues on fire, I should say. It looked terrific thus far, and now we'll be facing probably a late 2025 return, if that. We'll see how the Braves want to operate with that timetable for him. But just unfortunate news, and we hear it far too often on top of that. Atlanta gave an opportunity to a young kid tonight. Would have been great to see some runs for a change. When that's going to happen, I don't really know. It would have been, helpful here, I think, to maybe help him settle in. I know the Braves got him an early run. Would have been nice for a crooked number and a good old-fashioned big first inning for the Braves that we got so used to last year. But I heard you say it, and now I'm just going to throw it out there in the universe, too, in hopes that I'm reverse jinxing this. The 2024 club, I don't think we can continue talking about the 2023 club other than the fact that, yes, these guys are capable of bigger things than they're doing, but the numbers over a long period of time now, Jake, going on 6, almost 7 weeks, are really bearing out some very different, realities for this Braves lineup this year. I know some of the expected stuff would say that they should be better, but the actual numbers and the runs scored, whatever it takes, is what I feel like the Braves are going to have to figure out a way to, get things turned around. And I don't know that there's an easy answer for that. And I know that you and I have talked about it more than I think either one of us thought we would at any point this year. And it's been going on for a while.
Yeah, it has been. I mean, this is no longer just a small sample size. These guys are in a couple of week, slow's point or a drought, whatever you want to call it, a slump. It's no longer that anymore. It's been going on for over a month at this point. So, I still want to say that I believe and that these guys, as you said earlier, it's not like they're 1 year breakout guys. They have track records. They have, back of a baseball card. Like, a lot of people say there's a track record of success for these guys over several years. And I just have to believe at some point they're going to turn things around. You mentioned Matt Olson. I mean, he's had a good month of May. He has begun to turn things around. Marcell Ozuna's been great all year, although his OPS is under 1,000 now. So maybe we need to start getting on him at this point. But the timing for Austin Riley's injury was rough because it looked like he was starting to get going. And then obviously, Ronald, I know he still wasn't going great, but I still like him at the top of that lineup. He was still getting on base at a 35% clip. So, they've had some unfortunate injuries here or there. But the guys at the top can get going. Michael Harris, Ozzie Albies, I believe, those guys, can get going as well. It's just, I'm at the point now, I need to see it for week-long stretch at a time. It's no longer just, okay, he's had one good game, maybe we're back. I need to see it, over a week stretch.
And what's the old saying? I mean, seeing is believing. And with this group, you can certainly believe it, but we haven't seen it nearly enough to believe that it is, who they are this year, though they are capable of getting there. Ozzie Albies had 2 hits, got robbed of a third on a nice catch by Lane Thomas, who was everywhere tonight. He also stole a couple of bases late and had, a 3-for-4 night with that 3-run home run, 2 runs scored, and a walk. So pretty good night overall for Lane Thomas. It would be nice to see a few of those lines for a couple of these Braves hitters because they're going to need it if they want to beat a Washington Nationals club that, as you mentioned, has been racking up some hits when anyone other than Max Fried is on the mound. And we'll see if Reynaldo Lopez might be able to have something to say about that as the Braves try to split this 4-game series on Thursday. We'll talk a little bit more about all of that and get you set up for Game 4 of the series when we come back on the Braves Postcast. It's winner take all time in the NBA and the NHL, and FanDuel is giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Well, let's get into the Game 4 preview mode, Jake. And as the Braves came home for this series, I know we talked about this a bit on Sunday after the bad news about Acuna, but a huge one over the Pirates. And you thought, all right, we come home, face a Nationals team that's under 500. The Oakland Athletics are under 500. Both of those clubs, I know I said this on Sunday, and I'll say it again. And obviously, the spoilers over the first 3 games of this series would let you know, Nationals a little bit more competitive than they were maybe a year ago. They've been pretty good in this series, but now the Braves are just trying to split the 4 games before they welcome in Oakland for the weekend. Nationals, I think, what they're doing this year and being competitive is certainly part of the story. But as we've been talking about, Atlanta's underperformance offensively has kind of become the story for the Braves. I know it's a crazy thing to say about a club that's 9 games over 500, has, everything it wants to do still out in front of it as far as possibilities. They're not trying to dig out of a giant hole and a terrible start to the season record-wise. But I don't know if it's just that what we're seeing doesn't really match what the record has been for the club. They've found a way, and I think it's the pitching that's doing a lot of this, to stay afloat. But you just have to kind of hope that there's that course correction that we've been talking about and that it happens for the Braves around the time of year it always seems to happen. And that would be the month of June, which will be here this weekend.
Yeah, you certainly hope that's the case. I mean, I don't necessarily know that there's something that says, okay, Braves can only play good baseball in June. You'd like to see it throughout, but that has been, the case for the last several years, that when it has turned the calendar over to June, that this team has really started to take off. So that's kind of what we're all, hoping right now and kind of hanging on to, that that's going to be the case. But you just got to get it done on the field. I mean, you're playing some teams now that you should be beating. And I know the Nationals they're a scrappy team. They put the ball in play, they steal bags, and they've had some really good pitching. I get that. But this is a Braves team that they need to beat these teams. They need to beat the Nationals. They need to beat the A's. If you want to get to your goals and accomplish what you want to, you got to find ways to win. And the Braves got off to a hot start, and they've really just kind of been hanging on to that ever since. They've really been a 500 team for, over a month now. And look, if they're a 500 team the rest of the way, they're still going to make the postseason, and you're going to have a chance to do what you need to do. But certainly you would like to see them, get back to that team that's playing .600 baseball like we know that they're capable of. And hopefully that begins, on Thursday against Trevor Williams, who had the 2.29 ERA and a 1.08 whip, another Nationals pitcher that's having a great year. So it's going to be another tough challenge for them in this offense.
I still think it's safe to say this team has not played its best baseball yet this year. And again, they do have a lot of time left. I mean, ask Sean Murphy a couple of days ago after the Ronald Acuna Jr. news, you had some pretty tough injuries. You've been on the shelf for a couple of months, lost Spencer Strider. Now Ronald goes down. I mean, what's kind of the mindset going forward for this team? And he said, look, we have time left. We are in a good place. We've just got to get things going offensively. There's no easy way to replace a Ronald Acuna Jr., most certainly. But if everybody starts to get back towards their norms, maybe they can combine for the kind of production that they need to, where it doesn't hurt as badly to not have the most dynamic player in the National League and the reigning MVP of the league as well. But that's going to be a story that the Braves obviously are going to have to move past as well, because it's not going to really do any good to dwell on who's not here. The guys that are in this lineup, and getting a Murphy back and getting Austin Riley back, hopefully that is something that helps this lineup start to become a little bit more cohesive. I think at the top of the order, we'll see a little bit of Ozzie Albies against lefties. We'll see some Michael Harris against right-handers. Otherwise, I think a lot of the pieces, they might move around a little bit more than we're used to. And that's going to be interesting to see how Brian Snitker kind of finds that group. And I think that's kind of what this club is trying to do right now, if we're being honest, is to find its groove again and to kind of find out and reestablish who and what it is. Because, again, the talent is there. And I think we've said it till we're blue in the face. It doesn't change the fact that the underperformance is costing this club in a number of close games and in a number of ways. And until that changes, they're not really going to be able to get back to the level in which they've played, obviously all through 2023, but as a 100-plus win club the year before and a team that has those World Series aspirations. It has to look a certain way right now, Jake, and it just doesn't look that way out on the field, no matter how many ways you slice some of the stats and some of the hard hit rates that should be garnering better results.
Yeah, I mean, again, you look at this team now, 9 games over 500, and certainly if you've watched this team every day, as I know we have, it doesn't feel like that type of team. And again, we'll keep saying it, the talent is there. Even with the injuries, the talent is there, and nobody's going to feel sorry for you because you lost Spencer Strider or Ronald Acuna Jr. Other guys are going to have to step up. And I think the one thing that I watch out for is you don't have to step up in terms of doing more than you should. Kind of like your point a minute ago, it's just everybody kind of doing their part. And you've seen some instances here lately, I think, of guys trying to do too much. You've seen too many base running issues here lately. Ozzie Albies has just run into outs on the bases, trying to do too much, trying to stretch a single into a double when he shouldn't. It's just stuff like that. They don't have to do that. This lineup is still talented enough. If they just play like they're capable of, they're going to be able to perform and win games and get back to the postseason and have everything in front of them like they did coming into the season. So again, we keep saying it. Now they have to get it done. We have to see it. And like I said, see it over a long stretch to really, get past what we've witnessed the last month plus.
I mean, you are what the numbers say you are ultimately. And right now it says that the Braves is an offense that's very much struggling. As I mentioned earlier, 26th in Major League Baseball in runs scored this month. That's just not a thing that I thought I'd be talking about any month here in 2024 based on the cast of characters that came back after what they did a year ago. Now, I don't know if you know this or not, Jake, but apparently we covered the wrong first career start tonight because David Fletcher was on the mound for the Gwinnett Stripers this evening. I just had to throw this out there because it's a bizarre and crazy and just, give it to baseball just when you think you've seen everything. 5 innings of 2-run ball for David Fletcher of the Gwinnett Stripers with 6 strikeouts, floating the knuckleball, doing whatever he can. I guess they're just having some fun down at AAA Gwinnett, but whatever the case, David Fletcher just, living his best life in AAA, maybe trying to get a little bit of attention with that 5th starter spot open in Atlanta.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, the Braves have done a pretty good job here lately of just turning relievers into starters or turning anybody into starters, apparently. And, that knuckleball we saw with Matt Waldron, it's just something you don't see a lot, and it can be tough. And that was a really good lineup that he was facing, too. So, yeah, pretty interesting there for David Fletcher getting the start, and not only getting a start, but pitching pretty well.
Yeah, I'm sure Jackson Holliday really wanted to be struck out by the opposing team's shortstop/second baseman turned knuckleball pitcher to start the game, but he was just one of 6 strikeout victims on the night for David Fletcher, who will not be pitching for the Atlanta Braves tomorrow when they close out this series against the Washington Nationals, 7:20 p.m. Eastern time, first pitch. It's Reynaldo Lopez against Trevor Williams. You talked a little bit about Williams, 4-0, 2.29 ERA. Reynaldo Lopez, though, 2-2 with a 1.75. He's been everything that the Braves could have possibly asked for this year, Jake. They would love to ask him for another great start to help put them in a position to split this series on Thursday.
Would love to, yes, and he's pitched good all year, but, it has been a little bit harder here for him as of late compared to, just his great month of April, not necessarily getting the strikeouts as much anymore, but, he still hasn't allowed a ton of runs, just not going deep into games. And, like I said, just feels like a little bit more of a battle for him, but certainly somebody that's been fantastic all year and somebody that the Braves are hoping will give them a chance to at least even the series at home against the Nationals.
Yeah, rain didn't help him in that last outing. I will say that, but we'll see as Reynaldo gets back used to being in that starting rotation, that starting role, how he does over the course of the 30 or more starts that the Braves might ask of him, including whatever he might do in October, which, yes, is still a realistic possibility for the Braves, who, again, are trying to figure things out from an offensive standpoint. And if they can, they've still got a lot of things to accomplish here this season. Again, at 7:20 p.m. Eastern time, first pitch. Braves looking to split the 4-game set against the Washington Nationals on Thursday at Truist Park with Reynaldo Lopez on the mound against Trevor Williams. That's going to wrap us up here on this edition of the Braves Postcast. Unfortunately, a 7-2 loss for the Braves to the Washington Nationals on Wednesday. We'll be back, though, after the finale. Make sure you subscribe to Locked On Sports Atlanta on YouTube. Give us those likes and those comments. Share the show with a friend and subscribe to Locked On Braves wherever you get your podcast. For Jake Mastroianni, I'm Grant McAuley. We will catch you next time. And until then, so long, everyone.